All right, good afternoon, boys and girls. We're going to take some notes on independent and dependent variables today. So if you follow along with me, make sure that you put this into your table of contents. The first thing we're going to talk about is independent variables, and you can take notes as I am doing it. Independent variables affects the change on the dependent variable. Okay, we'll talk more about that after we get our definitions written down. The next one we're going to talk about is dependent variables. Now your dependent variables are the ones that do not change. It changes in response to the independent variable. All right, so something you might have learned in science to help you remember when we're graphing independent and dependent variables is an acronym called DRY mix. Okay, so the D stands for dependent variable. And once again, we're just getting our information now, getting it copied into our notes, and we'll be talking about it in further detail. Responding on, and you'll find it located on the y-axis. So the dependent variable responds to the independent variable, and you will locate it on the y-axis. Okay? Now, the M for mix stands for manipulate. It's the variable that will manipulate the change. It is the independent variable and it is located on the y-axis. I'm sorry, the x-axis. I was looking at the y to see what color it is. Notice I have these color coordinated. You have your dependent variable and then your independent variable. Your dependent variable responds to the independent variable. Our independent variable is the one that we manipulate. Okay? So if I were to graph this, so I'm going to make my little graph, number lines, two number lines come together. Okay? So this is my y-axis, and this one is my x-axis. The independent variable will be the one that you find on your x-axis, and the dependent variable is what you will find on the y-axis. Okay, so now let's put those into real-life situations now. I'm going to make a little T-chart. On one side of my T-chart, I have dependent. On my other side of my T-chart, I have independent. Now, one way to remember this is my dependent, okay, depends on the independent. This one determines that one. Okay, that's a good way to remember it. So, for example, amount of a paycheck is determined by the number of hours you work. Okay, so the amount I'm going to get for my paycheck will depend on the number of hours you work. So this one relies on your independent. This independent determines the dependent variable. Another example would be price of a speeding ticket. And Coach Jones never gets speeding tickets. So what determines the price of it is, yes, the speed you were going. The higher the speed you were going, the higher the speed you were going, believe it or not, is the more cost it will cost out of your pocketbook. Okay, so no speeding when you guys get those driver's license. All right, the next one, height of grass. Well, we all know what causes grass to grow is the amount of rainfall. Okay, speed of car. So how fast your car will go will be the pressure applied to the gas pedal. All right, so I'm going to pause it right here for a second. I'm going to give you a chance to get the rest of to get these notes copied, and then we're going to go on to page 2. All right, page 2. Now, red class, I know that I forgot to hand this out to you, but for the other 3 classes that I handed this out to, I do want you to go ahead and finish this page, okay? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be circling the independent phrase, and we're going to be underlining the dependent phrase. Okay, so let's look at the first one. It says the number of minutes I play Xbox Live is a result of how many minutes I have purchased. Okay, so we need to think about, so the number of minutes I've played is determined by how many minutes I have purchased. So how many minutes I have purchased, I would circle because that would be my independent variable. Okay, so I'm going to write IV above that for independent variable. Now, the number of minutes I play Xbox Live, okay, would be my dependent variable because it's determined by my independent variable. Okay, let's try another one. Number 2, the more sugar I eat, the more hyper I am. Okay, the more sugar I eat, the more hyper I am. So, what is causing it? Well, the amount of sugar that I'm eating is causing my hyperness. So that would be my independent variable. How hyper I am would be my dependent variable because it's being caused by the amount of sugar I am eating. Okay? All right, I want you to, on your own, I want you to complete 3 through 9, and we'll go over them in class tomorrow. The 6 phrases at the bottom, you're going to put together. You're going to use each one of these phrases. It says each phrase will only be used once. So you're going to be using your context clues to make that, and there obviously is going to be more than one answer for some of these, okay? But your sentence needs to make sense. It needs to have an independent variable, and it needs to have a dependent variable. So you are only using these phrases to choose from to either put into this one or to put it into this side. So I'm anxious to see what you come up with tomorrow. Okay? All right. Have a great evening.